We have reached the middle of the year. How are you feeling on your goals and habits that you started at the beginning of the year? Are they good? You feel like you kind of fell off the wayside? We're going to talk about all of that today, and I'm going to give you an update on that chit chat style episode that I published at the beginning of the year that explained the personal business goals and habits that I was working towards, see how I'm doing with them, and I'm also going to give you an update on the productivity and planning tools that I am using. Have they changed from what I'm using now to what I started with? And Trinity is apparently wanting to join us today for the conversation as well. But if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Kalyn, and we talk about all things planning, productivity, and personal growth, and Notion, a lot of Notion, because it is my favorite digital organization tool. So spoiler alert, yes, I'm still using Notion as a productivity tool. But as we go through this list of my own goals, I want to share 3 questions, kind of rapid fire, to help you think through your own mid-year reset, because this is a really great time to think about like where we are, where we've come from, and then what needs to change going forward. Because maybe June and July right now is a completely different season for you than, at a completely different place than you were at the beginning of January. So the first question is, what do you count as a success this year? And I don't just mean your goals. I mean in life in general. Was there something that maybe wasn't on your list that was a surprise to you that you're like, yeah, like I really did well at that this year? Secondly, for the goals that you perhaps didn't reach, was there a reason why? Can you think about like where was the resistance or obstacle to that goal? Because I think when we can pinpoint what went wrong, then we can move to question number 3 and say, what plan of action do we need to do going forward? And with that, I mean, we either need to change our strategy for the goal entirely, or we need to completely get rid of that goal because, like I mentioned before, maybe we're at a completely different place now than we were 6 months ago. And what new goals do we want to set for the rest of the year? So these are the things that I want you to think about as I'm going through all of my goals. So we're going to go into Notion, and I'm going to show you a page that I have not shown anyone yet before, because I just created it like a few months ago. So this is called my life map page. And this is where I'm bringing in my word of the year, abundance, because I was really losing focus on that word and I just needed a place to be reminded of it. It's also bringing in all my goals for my business, for my personal life, my top level goals, my sprints and projects, and I'll go into like the difference between all of those in a minute. But I also have the priorities, my morning and evening routine, which I'm trying to kind of build back again. And then for all the different platforms that I'm on creating content for, because creating content is my full-time job, like what strategies and goals do I have for each of those platforms? So I felt like there was so much going on in January through March. I did really well, and then chaos ensued and everything fell apart. So I needed one place where I kind of brought everything back in. And if you're a 6-week sprint goal planner and you have the goal planner template, you may be wondering, well, why aren't you just using that? Well, I am still using that for sprints. It's under here, 6-week sprint goal planner, for my specific goals that are 6-week sprints. And so this leads me to a little side note conversation that I want to have before I get into my goals, is what do I view as like a project versus a sprint versus a goal? Like, are they all the same? And I kind of think of it in about 2 different tiers, because I know they can get like a little mushy. So my top level goals up here on my life map are big goals that might not necessarily have a quantifiable aspect to them, like getting my life together, continuous learning, but I can choose projects or goals underneath those in the second tier that kind of help me reach that point. They could also be quantifiable goals, like increasing my income to a certain level a month, but I can't necessarily predict that that's going to happen. Like, I could predict that I could work out 5 times a week, but I can't predict that I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight. So that's what an outcome goal is. So my top level are outcome goals, or basically aspirations that I want to get to. And then my sprints and projects underneath that are related to those goals. So you can see here, I have a list under the name section of all of my sprints and projects and habits. And then they are related to a top level goal using a relation property to connect those 2 databases together. So that's how I view it. And then when it comes to the difference between a sprint and a project, it's basically, what is the timeline, and do I need the structure that a 6-week sprint brings. Sometimes the timeline is longer than 6 weeks, and it's a project that I don't necessarily need to be working on every week. Like my presentation that I was working on for the Get Organized Summit in September, I started that back in March, and I haven't needed to work on it every single week. I'm just puttering on it little by little here and there. So that is just a project. But for something like a health 6-week sprint that I'm currently in the middle of, that is something where I need the parameters. I want to say I'm starting this date, I'm ending this date, and here are all the things that I'm doing in between, and it's basically my accountability. I need that structure for it. So that's kind of what I view a sprint versus a project. But they are in the exact same database, because we don't need 50 different Notion databases to get all confused about. So anyway, that just kind of gives you an overview of what this page is. And in terms of getting into my goals, so I split them up into personal and business. And with personal, I had 2 habits and a main goal. And then business, I had like a bunch of habits in terms of like the platforms I was going to be posting on and how often. And then I had a couple major goals with that. So we'll start with the personal section. The 2 habits that I had was journaling every day and reading 1 nonfiction book per month. Now the journaling every day, I did great January through March. It was amazing. And I credit it to this Hemlock and Oak daily planner, which is kind of like a planner and a bullet journal mixed in one. It just has a lot of extra space for me to write. So I have my time block, I did my to-do list for the day, and then with the extra space, I was able to do some journaling. Well, then what happened at the end of March is we started traveling again. And we had been pretty stationary, working and trying to save money. And so I had the time, because we weren't really going anywhere and doing things, to be able to have this be a part of my daily routine. And when we started traveling a lot more, I had to make a decision on whether I wanted to keep doing this or not, whether it was a huge priority, because it started to feel like a burden. And anytime something feels like a burden and there's that resistance, I'm like, what is going on? What do I need to change? Do I need to get rid of this entirely? And I just felt the pull to just simplify and just do things in Notion instead of trying to kind of do it in both places. So I have not picked this back up after March. I'm very sad about, because I loved it. It was so good to me. It served its purpose from January through March, and maybe I'll pick it up again. Who knows? But for now, I'm sticking with Notion on that. So that was mainly to bring up the journaling habit, but now I guess I kind of gave a spoiler onto the planning tool that I am not using when we get to that section. So journaling for me is it's moving, instead of like kind of end of the workday, it's moving to before bed, which is what I had originally last summer before I even bought this planner. And I have that actually, I'm doing my evening routine that I posted last summer. Have a video on that if you're interested. So I'm bringing it back to my evening routine, not necessarily doing it every day, trying to, but not stressing about it like before. And then when it comes to my nonfiction books, so I'll go down here and show you the goal of read 1 nonfiction book per month in 2024. You can see I am 42% of the way there, which means I'm 2 books behind on that, which is kind of sad. But I know why. There's a thing called habit stacking, which is if you struggle with a habit, pair it with another habit that you typically don't skip. And I just didn't have a time of day where I was reading a nonfiction book. I can read novels fine because I do them right before bed. I'm not going to not go to bed. So before bed, I'm just always reading. That has just become a habit. But with a nonfiction book where it's more active reading instead of passive reading, that's not something I had a necessarily time to do. So I have changed that now to reading a few pages in the morning with my morning smoothie, because I am not going to skip breakfast. I love my smoothie. I've had it like for the last 10 years every single day, which is so crazy. I love it that much. And so that's when I'm going to be reading. And hopefully I can catch back up on this habit. The one personal goal that I had was, if you remember, to save $15,000 for Alaska. And at the beginning of the year, I was 25% of the way through that goal. My husband was doing work camping jobs. I joined him on a job. We'd also restarted our YouTube channel for our travel brand, Open Roading, and that was starting to make income. So everything was just kind of like growing. And in 4 months, we were able to save $15,000. So that is here on my top level goal, a completed goal. I'm filming this in Alaska right now. It has been such a fun summer already, and I can't believe I'm here. I just have to like pinch myself that we actually made it. So that was exciting to me, to look at that and say, I didn't do like exceptionally well on these habits. Like I made some progress, but I really knocked this goal out of the park. And so that feels really good, especially because we're so prone to like skip over the goals that we actually did do in light of looking at where we failed and having those failures kind of overpower what we completed. So take some time to celebrate the goals that you have completed this year. So that's what I have done. Now when it comes to the back half of the year, what do my personal goals and habits look like? So I'm still gonna do the journaling, still do the reading. I also have a get back in shape 6-week sprint where I am working out 5 times a week, running twice, strength training 3 times, trying to do 5,000 steps a day, which my Fitbit tracker broke. Of course, I'm on week 2 and it broke. So I have to get a new tracker, but that is what I'm focusing on for the back half of the year. And then the 6-week sprint that I want to do on the personal side is to build a wardrobe manager in Notion and get my clothes kind of organized for this year. I did a capsule wardrobe back in the fall and I have a blog post on that. I don't have a video on it, but I will link that blog post below. But the styles have changed drastically since then, and I just feel like I need kind of a reset with it. And I was using the Stylebook app, which it was okay, but I didn't love. So I want to move everything into Notion so that I can get rid of that app. I don't have an extra app on my phone, and kind of once I organize the outfits and things in Notion, I can see what I have and I can see what I need to buy and what I need to put on my wish list to complete my capsule wardrobe. So that's kind of the main focus. I have a few things on here that once I may get to this year, I may not. I'm really focusing on the workout routine and the evening routine, and also making sure that I'm reading nonfiction before I decide to go ahead and add in everything else. Now on the business side, I'll get back to the habits in a minute because I'm making quite a few changes when it comes to the platforms that I'm posting on and how much. But the 2 goals that I had were the Get Organized HQ Virtual Summit that I was speaking at again, and that one is almost complete. I just have a few more little things to do for that before that goal is done. And then my other goal was to create 2 new products, and I did do that. So one was a product that I knew I was going to create. That was the 6-week sprint goal planner template. The second one, the bill pay tracker, was not on my radar until everyone started asking for it, and then I decided to create it. I had a completely different project in mind. Hey, you don't need to see what's going on out there. Turn around. Come here. Come on, lay down. You're good. There you go. But I had a completely different product in mind, and then it just didn't feel like the right time for it. So I did the bill pay tracker, and so now that is listed in my shop as well, and I have a video that explains how that works. Actually, I take you through the entire build, so you don't even need to buy the template if you don't want to, if you want to DIY it yourself. But if the formulas are like a little crazy for you and you're getting overwhelmed, then there is the template there that you can grab. So I feel really good about those 2 goals. And in terms of goals for the back half of the year, I have some sales that I'm going to run. I have another Notion template that I want to create. I want to clean up my blog. I have someone helping me do that. And then I'm hoping that maybe I can start a blog for our travel brand. I just don't know. I have to be so in tune with like my capacity and my energy levels and make sure that I'm not overwhelming myself, because I have a very high tendency to do that. So those are some things on my radar. And then when it comes to the habits of like posting weekly on YouTube, posting a weekly newsletter, etc., I'm making some changes to that. So the YouTube video, you may have already noticed that I have not been publishing every single week like I had for, I think, since last June. And that is because my YouTube channel for Open Roading, my travel brand, has been just kind of growing and skyrocketing, and it's been taking up a lot of my filming time. So I don't always have like the energy to sit down and film for this channel. So I'm trying to balance both, and in an effort to do that, I need to scale back to about every other week, and that seems to be a little bit more doable for me. When it comes to my weekly newsletter, so I've been writing a free weekly newsletter for over 12 years now, and over the past year, I would say, I've been seeing more and more people and friends and content creators that I admire jumping on Substack. And it is a writing platform that reminds me of the old blogging days where we would like publish our thoughts and articles and what was going on in our life. And then we were able to all like jump in the comments and have community there and connect with each other. And we've just sort of lost that in the blogs of what they are now, because they're very SEO based. Like, people just use them for search engine things, find what they need, leave. There's not really a community there. So I've been wanting to start a Substack and just trying to figure out the right topics, the right time. And so I've been writing on there for a couple weeks now, and I am moving the Monday Files free weekly newsletter over to Substack, where if you sign up as a free subscriber, you still get one newsletter a month for that. But if you decide to opt for a paid subscription, it's kind of like a magazine, then you are going to get 4 articles per month, plus book note articles, like notes from my nonfiction books that I'm taking, and also the Friday shutdown routine post, which is more like a summary of what happened in my week, more personal update, a little more vulnerable, and also books that I'm reading, what I love, what I didn't, and some links to close out your week. It's also a place where I am opening up more as a digital nomad and traveling entrepreneur and sharing more of that side of things, more business side of things, more travel side of things. So it's kind of all coming together, whereas I felt like before I had to keep those parts of my life separate. Substack is kind of where, I don't know, it feels more like home. It feels more like me. So if you want to join me over there, I do have a discount for you that you can grab in the description below. But if that's not in the cards for you, still sign up as a free subscriber, because occasionally you will still get articles and newsletters from me. So that means my main newsletter list, because Substack is different than that, is going to be going down to once a month monthly recaps, where it's just like what happened this month, and then links to the articles that I've posted on my actual blog, and then any new YouTube videos that I have done as well, or new products and resources that I have released. So that's going to be sent out at the end of every month, just kind of as a recap. If you missed anything, it's going to give you everything that you need to know all in one place. So those are like two major updates for my business, and it's a little, I don't know, like scary to kind of make changes with things that you've done for over 12 years, especially like moving to a different platform and trying that out and trying something new. But I'm excited about it. And I think as a online business owner, you have to be, especially as a content creator, you have to be excited about the things that you're creating and constantly innovating and trying new things. So that's what I am doing here. So that brings us to the end of the goals section. Let's talk quickly about planning tools. And you already know that the Hemlock and Oak has gone by the wayside. Very sad. But I also was using a blank notebook as a commonplace notebook for like all my book notes and things like that I was learning. I'm also using Notion, and I was using Google Calendar. So what of those have stayed? Well, Notion, obviously, because it has my entire life in it. So still doing that, of course. And then my commonplace book has turned less into like taking notes on things that I want to save. Those seem to be more just like bypassing a notebook and going into Notion, because this is like just where I can organize and reference things easier. And this has become more of a brainstorming notebook. So it's still an analog tool that like sits at my desk where I can just write, I had a meeting and someone recommended a book that they loved, and so I can write that down, or I can do some quick calculations on, a finance thing that I'm working on. So it's just a brainstorming notebook of just getting my thoughts out on paper, because I can't seem to do that on digital still. So still have an analog tool by my side with Notion. And then I'm not using Google Calendar anymore because Morgan Calendar pulled me away from it. I did not think this would ever happen, but Morgan has everything that I have ever wanted in a digital calendar and more. He integrates with Notion, and it's so easy to just drag and drop my tasks into time blocks. You know how much I love time blocking, and so it's just a really easy way for me to figure out my schedule for the day and where things fit in. Now, it is free to try. However, if you do want the Notion integration or any other to-do list integration, then you do need to pay for the app. I'll leave a discount in the description below. You can get 15% off. So actually, if you think about it, I went from 4 tools down to 3. So Commonplace Book, Notion, and Morgan Calendar, which feels really good going into this last half of the year. That should catch you up to speed on everything goal-wise and also planning and productivity tool-wise. And I hope it shows you that like it's okay not to meet your goals, it's just, you just have to reassess. You have to reevaluate, take some time to do some journaling and dream casting and see what you want to do for the next 6 months. This is a great time of year to just reset, press the reset button and see what we want to do differently in the next few months. If you are interested in trying a new framework for your goals, I still love and recommend and am using the 6-week sprint goal setting framework. So you can watch this video over here. That is going to give you all the details step by step on how to use the framework, and you'll also have a Notion template that you can use as well. I'll see you over there.